Please buy my merch, please. Hey, what's up? It's me, your favorite artist you obviously subscribe to. Today, I will be taking a look at your artwork, and I will be critiquing it. It's a brand new series I might be starting, and I'm only gonna pick a handful of submissions. Now, I am actually surprised at the amount of submissions there were. I did not expect this many, but as you know, you can take these critiques with a little bit of salt. It's not meant to make fun of you. I'm just trying to help. So, I mean, if you agree with me or not, that's up to you. Our first submissioner is named BillyChi. Now, her art just looks absolutely phenomenal, okay? It's probably even better than mine, to be honest. The reflectiveness on her dress is amazing. Her hair, the reflectiveness on it, the glow of the eyes, it's just all like super interesting to look at. Now, there is 3 things that I do want to talk about. One's, anatomy-wise, and the other 2 are more of like little nitpicks. So, number 1, I'm gonna go through the nitpicks first. So number 1 is the color of the line art. Like, the line art itself it's fine. But the color of it is a little too harsh and kind of stands too out. It doesn't feel like it meshes well with the art. So a little recommendation is to like not use black line art. Like, I know I do, but for some art styles, especially this one, it's super detailed, okay? So when you have like a really harsh line art that feels a little bit like a little bit more on the cartoony side, it kind of doesn't mesh well with it. So what I do recommend is to either use a color that's like a skin tone, like one of the darker skin tones. I would recommend using that kind of color, or I would set it to like, how people do like do the color and then multiply. You can do that as well. I just don't really think that black mixes well with the color of the entire piece, especially because you have lighter colors like yellow and the skin color. I do not think it would go well with it. So I would recommend changing it to like a darker orange, a darker skin tone, or maybe brown. Now, the second nitpick I want to go into is the lack of hard shadows. So by no means is the shading any like bad. Like everything that you shaded looks exactly where it's supposed to be. Just the lack of hard shadows makes it look like that your body is a little bit more rubbery, like around the dress and the skin. It looks a little rubbery, and I think you did have hard shadows, but the problem is you blended too much. So what I would say is stop blurring your stuff as much as you would. Just lay off the blur tool, because then you're gonna end up with like a little smudge, like a smudged piece that looks a little messy, that looks rubbery. But by no means does it look bad at all. It's just I would, step off the blur tool, just leave some hard shadows in. The third thing I want to talk about is the sizing of the hair, and by the sizing I mean the gap between the top of the head and the top of the hair. There should always be a gap between your hair and the head, because if you lack that gap, then your head will end up looking flat. So all I recommend is to change the sizing of the hair to include that gap. It just has to be a little gap. It doesn't have to be anything major, but you should really avoid drawing your hair from like the top of the head. You should always leave a little gap in between those 2 places. Now, this piece overall just looks absolutely fantastic. All I recommend is to add hard shadows to the dress, the body, change the sizing of the hair to include that gap, and then lastly, the color of the line art. And that's it. This piece is just amazing. Here is our second submission of the day by Hisopod. Now, I do want to go through some beginner mistakes and then talk about what you tried achieving with the window light effect. I think it was a very brave move to do it, because you always got to expand like your horizon with art. You got to try new stuff. So first of all, I want to talk about the line art. Now, the line art looks very wobbly, and I could tell you why. It's literally a very easy solution to fix. So there is this thing called stabilization in most art, and this affects how much line correction you get. Here is a pen with no stabilization. You can see it's very wobbly. Even when I try to do quick strokes, it's very wobbly, and that's kind of gross. That's not what we want. When you turn up the stabilization though, so let's get this to my comfortable 15, then the line art becomes smoother. There's more of a correction and it looks smoother. And see, very easy solution to fix. And you should be doing quick strokes too. I could see maybe that you try doing a little bit slower, and that's also gonna just make things worse. So quick strokes, turn up stabilization and make it more smoother. And see, very easy solution to fix. The second thing I want to talk about is the highlights of your hair. Now, they kind of feel very inconsistent and too minor to really add anything to the art. So I'm gonna give you a few tips to help it. So one thing is that you should play around with it. Make them meaningful. Make them like do something cool. So what I did for this is that I took a pen brush. I kind of put just a white line. Make sure the line kind of follows the curvature of your head. And then what I did is that I took a transparent tool and just kind of made little U's and little stripes. Now what this does is that it makes the highlights more abundant. It follows the flow of the hair, and it makes them, you know, it makes them stylistic. It makes them fun to look at. Because, I mean, you can do dots, but the dots you did are too small. And you kind of did streaks of lines too that are too thin. So, you know, play around with the hair. Look up hair highlights, look up cool looking ones. Try to do something cool with them. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, and probably the most major part of the art piece, is the lighting window effect. Now, this is very hard to pull off, and I'm going to tell you why it's kind of looks off in this drawing. The first thing I want to point out is that it kind of feels like you just took the lighting layer and you just slapped it on the character without thinking about the, you know, the curvature of her face. Now, imagine this. Imagine I had a line splitting my face in half, okay? I had a marker line. If I turned this way, to you, it wouldn't look like a line anymore. It would look like, you know, a curve. It would look like a little curvy figure curving based on the shape of my face. And that's kind of what's happening here. So look at my character for a second. So what you did is that you just kind of made squares of lighting. But no, the endpoints of those lightings, like I said, it has to follow the curvature of your face like this. Even with your hair. My hair at this point would be curved like that, and then you can erase outwards. Next thing I want to talk about is how the lighting doesn't really blend nicely in with the multiply layer, and I'm going to show you a very quick fix to that. So when you're doing lighting stuff like this, you need a transition color so it doesn't look like a harsh, you know, transition from, oh, light to black immediately. You need a transition layer, and that's what you can use a glow dodge layer for. So as you can see here, I have my multiply layer and my glow dodge layer. And as you can see, without my glow dodge layer, it looks kind of gross. It looks like a gross transition from like grayish brownish to skin color. Now what you need here is a glow dodge layer with a very saturated orange airbrush tool. And then all you want to do is outline where the light and dark meet. And that's going to create a vibrant, you know, it's going to create vibrancy, and it looks like a very nice transition instead of, skin color to grayish. No, you're going to add more of a vibrant tone to it, and it just looks nicer overall. So overall, her art is really nice, and I have to congratulate her on trying to do something that is very hard to do. So I really hope this critique helped you into doing the lighting thing better next time. Here we have an illustrator with ehlerstransie from Black Butler. Now I'm going to right away point out that there is an abundance of airbrush tool, okay? This is a problem with every beginner traditional artist. When you use too much airbrush tool, your colors start to look like smudgy, grossious, you know? Now you just need to stop relying on airbrush tool, because I know you're trying to like blend it to make it look more realistic. That's what I used to do. But you just need to use a watercolor brush tool because you need hard shadows in there as well. And when you just have soft shading, it kind of looks smudgy and plasticky. The second thing I do want to talk about is how he picks his colors. As you can see, the skin is kind of grayish, and that's because you're picking colors that are down in value instead of down in value and hue. You need to remember to change your hue when you change your value, because when you don't do that, you end up just picking more of a grayish color of your original color, and it just makes it look grosser overall. Last thing I want to get into is also a common mistake. I can tell that you don't horizontally flip your art because the eyes are uneven. When you have a lot of asymmetrical things in your art, you need to constantly flip horizontally your artwork so you can make sure that everything is even and looks right. If you don't do that, then some things end up looking slanted, uneven, you know, all that. So you got to make sure to also constantly flip horizontally your art so you can make sure for those, so you can watch out for those inconsistencies. Today we have chainchin with her fourth submission we have her fourth submission with chainchin and her submission of Pretty Lady, as she puts it. Now, the one thing I think this piece overall is just very wonderful. But there is one thing I do want to talk about, and it's the shape of her face. So when you're drawing your face, your eyes should kind of be in the middle of your head, and everything below your eyes should equal the length of everything that's above your eyes. So your forehead and everything below your eyes should be of equal length. Right here, you can tell that her face is a little bit more smaller than her forehead, which kind of makes it, you know, her face look a little bit more scrunched. So what I recommend to do is just when you're doing your guidelines, when you draw your head, make sure your eyes are in the middle of your head instead of like, you know, a little bit more down. Because then that's gonna make your face look a little bit more scrunched. And I've done that before, as you can see in this art piece that I'm going to bring up. So as you can see, when you do what I did, when you make your eyes below the middle of your head, you end up having more of a scrunched face and a larger forehead, and that just kind of throws everything off. This problem is a little bad considering she's supposed to look like an adult, and it makes her look more like a kid than an adult, which is probably not very good. But overall, the color, the line art looks very soft, the coloring is very nicely done. I don't really find a problem with it. I feel like everything except for the face shape is actually done very well in this drawing. What's this? A fan art of mine? Oh shit. Now here is another submission from cletaartsca. I can't pronounce shit, okay, I'm sorry. But I'm very sad to be critiquing an OC of mine, but you asked for it, so I'm gonna do it anyways. Now there's just one overglaring issue, and then the other one just has to do with her clothing. I'm gonna go through the nitpick first. You made her kind of her skin tight, like, you know, her skin tight clothing. It shouldn't have wrinkles because it's latex. And latex, when it stretches around you, it's supposed to be tight, and it shouldn't really have wrinkles. So as you can see here, you know, I didn't shade it any better, but the latex lacks wrinkles because latex is like skin tight, and so there shouldn't be any wrinkles unless it's at parts where you bend. But as you can see in this drawing, it's mostly at like the torso area, which is flat, so it shouldn't really have any wrinkles in it. Now the second thing I want to talk about is the anatomy, and I get it, anatomy is a pain in the butt, but there are some shortcuts you can follow, which I'm going to teach you. So as you can see here, her head is kind of too small compared to her upper and lower torso. Now I think the lower torso is actually fine. I think it's you made the upper torso too long. So as you can see here, the upper torso, lower torso, and the head shape are all of equal lengths. And see, it looks fine. So what I recommend is that when you're doing your guidelines, make sure that you're getting the size of each body part individually right. So there are a lot of shortcuts you can follow. You get like, this part of your hand is equal to your feet. I didn't even fucking know that until I started drawing. Your head should be equal to your upper and lower torso, and then your legs. I still have a problem with legs, I don't know. But you can see, if you learn these shortcuts, it's relatively easy to do anatomy. Another thing is that your shoulders, the shoulders are too broad. I think that's the term. They're too wide compared to the rest of your body. They should be equally sized as the character's hips. And yeah, that's about it. For our last submission, sadly, we have Vanilla and Cream with the drawing of Jonathan Joestar. So the first thing I do want to point out is that the perspective is a little weird in some places, mostly in two places. And those places are the eyes and the forearm. So right here, I have a guideline of an arm. So here, we're going to draw the upper arm. And then for the forearm, you knew what you were trying to do, but you kind of executed it weird. So the way you treated it was that the front of the arm that you see is connected to the bottom of the upper arm, but that simply isn't the case. The front of the arm that you see should be connected to the front part of the upper arm. And you can show that by putting a line here that kind of represents the bulge of like your bicep. So from there, you're then able to draw an arm that correctly looks like how it's supposed to be connected. So here I'm going to draw a side image of how you made it look like. So you made it look like, so here's the arm, but from a side view, it looks like more like a pancake than an arm. So you made it look like that. But the way you're supposed to make it look like right here is that the bicep is connected to the arm instead of looking a little bit like a pancake. The second thing where perspective kind of matters is the eyes. The thing you did with the eyes is that you made them angled downward like this instead of just straight. Your eyes should be slanted straight because the character is looking straight ahead. Since the character is looking straight ahead, you should make the eyes even like this. Another thing you did is that you need to horizontally flip your artwork again to make sure the eyes are even height. Because when they're not even height, then they look crooked and stuff. The third thing I want to talk about is that you made the shading of the skin blue. I think what you were trying to go for is that you did a multiply layer, but you shouldn't really substitute that for shading unless you were doing an alternate lighting source. But when you're doing your ambient inclusion, you need to pick out colors that match your skin instead of just doing a multiply layer with blue on it. I do think you were going for the lighting thing because I can see some orange parts right here that kind of make me think you were trying to follow the thing I do where you do the lighting and then you add orange on the edges. You only do that when you're doing an external lighting source, but when you're doing your ambient inclusion, you need to follow shading like how you would do for any other art piece. That is all our submissions we can do for today, even though I think I got through like 6. It's taking me like 2 hours to make this fucking video just for it to end up like 10 minutes long. But yeah, if you like the series, be sure to tell me. Maybe I'll do more of them if you guys seem to like it. And yeah, subscribe, like, comment, share this shit. Be sure to check out the merch. And yeah, see you later.